All right, Maitland, you did mention you wrote a book, Rated X, and how porn liberated you from Hollywood.
Yes, I did.
That's
Such
very
a,
different.
yeah. I know people think it's such a like a dramatic shift, and it is, but it was a very long, thoughtful journey, really, and a journey of my own sexual discovery and my own discovery of what I wanted to be as a performer and as a human. And it just took me from a place of very, I was on Disney. It was very controlled and very, there was no freedom in how you could dress or be or look and stuff. You had to really follow that company's sweet Disney line, while at the same time they did they sexualized the girls on these shows, but it was very much done in a more subtle way. Although when you look now back at these shows, you can definitely see how a lot of the Disney stars, the girls, were used in a very virginal sexual way. So yeah, that's my whole journey from the soap opera that I started on to becoming the top porn performer.
I mean, we're going to get into all of this for sure. But how did you get into Hollywood and what were your assumptions about being in Hollywood?
You know what? I always loved acting since I was little. I just thought of it as kind of an outlet of where I was an only child, and it kind of it gave me this like imaginary place where I could play and do things. Like when I was only like 4 years old, I was acting out Star Wars on my front lawn with neighbors and my dogs, and like just making movies with my friends on the video camera. And so I always loved that. And I took acting classes when I think I started about 10 in the neighborhood and doing community kind of theater. But I really loved soap operas when I was young. And I thought that is an escape. I was a big Days of Our Lives fan. As the World Turns, I was like I loved that. And I loved that whole drama. So when my braces came off and I said, I really want to try acting. I saw a casting workshop that was going to be with Christy Dooley. It was the Bold and Beautiful casting director. Now I wanted to get the Days one or the General Hospital one but I was excited to like get a soap opera workshop at this casting, like this place that's like an actor's studio called TVI. They have different casting directors teach classes, and you come in and you kind of get to know them and get to know their work and everything. I was the youngest person in there. I was like 16 barely. And it was all like older people, older than me, in their 30s and stuff. And so, because I thought it was going to be all so punks, and I was going to be like, wow, doing these like love scenes. But it was very thoughtful and constructed, and we really went down go over like what soaps are, like how we make a script good and stuff. So I learned a lot. But at the end of the workshop, the casting director had said, why didn't you come in to try out for this role of this teenage girl that we're looking at for the summer storyline? This was probably in the spring, or late winter or something. And I said, okay. I was so excited. I mean, it was beyond my wildest dreams. And I went in for many auditions, and it took a long process, but eventually I was cast in The Bold and Beautiful and had a big contract role. Right, I was a junior in high school, and all of a sudden I was in this world of glamour and drama, and I was behind the scenes of everything that I watched before. And I had these two like so punk guys that are my boyfriends that were much older than me, and it was very much living out a fantasy. And I think I definitely had that fantasy of Hollywood, like it would be so glamorous and beautiful, and I'd be the star. And I have to say, when I got on Bold and Beautiful, it did feel like that. It didn't disappoint me when I first did. It was a dreamland to do it. And everybody was really nice to me for the most part. It was just a very special time. Now, as Hollywood progressed, I saw, things that were wrong with Hollywood and all of that, but that's down the line. This is when I first, stepped onto the soundstage.
Now, obviously you're very young. Could you ever foresee yourself where you are now?
No, not at all.
Right. That was not even your mind, right?
No, never, not until decades later. I was very shy about my sexuality. I had to be the good girl. I always had to, portray myself as such. And I felt like people liked me better when I was this virginal kind of Christian girl that was like you know, she was sweet and everybody liked her, and she was always going to be really, you know, good. And I had to, you know, live up to that image, even though privately I was having other thoughts. And I was thinking about my own sexuality, but I wasn't ready to like face that yet. When I was that young, I was like, no, this is, you know, who I am. I need to portray this image. And I did that for many years to come, until it slowly started to erode away. And I had to really discover myself.
When
And
you were like in high school, were you still going to high school? Like
yes,
you were, so did people know you were on the Bold and
oh,
Beautiful?
absolutely. They knew the first day I got cast,
What
and it
was
was
that
like,
like being in high school and people
it
were
was
watching your
awesome.
show?
It really was the best of both worlds. I have to say, being on B&B, what we called it, it was amazing, because I'd go to high school like 2 days a week, and I'd go to the set 3 days a week. And so I would just be able to roll in. I had the best tutor on the set. He was an old USC man, an old Navy guy, and he had retired and from teaching, actually being a coach in high school and stuff, but he retired and became a studio teacher. So it was so fun to like sit with him and hear his stories, and he was really helpful with my work and everything. And so my dog is
It's all right. It's okay. We have dog guests sometimes.
yeah, he's in the background here or something. But then, yeah, so it was great. And then I went to school, and it was funny. All of a sudden, people either loved me or hated me. And it was a real, yeah, shift. Like I'd have like cheerleaders who never paid attention to me at all when I was, you know, the drama geek at school and stuff, come up to me and be my best friend. And then I had people who just hated me because I guess they were jealous and they felt competition or whatever. But yeah, it was an interesting time to find out like who your real friends were, and what your place was at school and at the studio, because I was working this full-time job that was an adult person's job. And then I was also going to school, but it was cool. I got, for the prom, like the people in the studio like did me up, and I got dressed, and they sent me off in my limo and, and things like that. And they were all at my high school graduation, and I had my two hunky soap guys come to my school when I did a school play. So, and all the girls went crazy that they were in the audience.
Wow, what an experience. I mean, did
Yeah.
you ever think at that time, like, man, this is just wild? Like, how could, like, because no one else was experiencing that at your high school, right? I mean, it was
No,
just
no, no, no.
you.
No, and
What
I came from Long Beach, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, but it's not Hollywood near at all.
right,
Like,
yeah.
are
I've been to
not that
Long Beach.
minded.
Yeah.
It's not like I went to Hollywood High School or something like that. But no, and it was wild, and it was such a dream come true. I felt like a princess all of a sudden, being able to be kind of like this nerdy girl at school. And then I was all of a sudden blossomed into this soap opera star who had like attention worldwide, because our show was so big worldwide. And it was wild, but it was good experience overall, you know, except for certain things that I, you know, write about in the book. But the whole high school experience was cool.
So you become an adult, you know, you're 18, you start moving on in life. How did that start affect? You're an adult now. So how did you start viewing your career as an adult and where you wanted to head from that point?
You know, I was let go from the show because there was nowhere for my storyline to go. I had been this virgin and had this whole tumultuous storyline for years, and then I was raped. It was just torturous. And then it was like, oh, if that's too uncomfortable, like to talk about anymore.
Oh,
We're going to send you to school at Oxford and possibly bring you back. But it was, so it was a real shift for me, because I was going to college at the same time, actually taking classes as I was at the end of the soap opera. And it was just kind of like weird to not be that soap opera girl anymore. And so I really had to make a shift. I did I did a few things. I did a TV movie and stuff where I dyed my hair, and and then I ended up dyeing it really black, just to like totally erase like Jessica Forster, who are that past. But then I was sad about it. But that's actually what ended up making me a redhead, is because when I did it black, and then later on I was told to take it out because I looked crazy, like I looked goth. I was so pale with like dark hair. I looked like I was Satan's spawn. But I mean, it was cool in some pictures and stuff, but in daily life. And my manager, who I met with, a new one, told me, take it out. When they were taking it out, it turned red, because that's just what happens when you're
yeah.
taking it out to try to get it lighter. So I was like, wait a minute, this is everybody was like, that looks really good. Why don't you try like red? And actually I was born with auburn hair, and then it got dirtier and blonde when I got young. And so it was like, I had this golden blonde hair and stuff, and then it got dirtier. And, you know, like when you grow up, you just it's not as vibrant. So, and then when I was on the soap opera, I like bleached it totally to make it super blonde. So then I was like, okay, I'm going back to like my baby roots.
That's
like,
right. Literally. Yeah.
so I did that. And then shortly after that, after like, you know, doing some auditioning and kind of discovering myself and thinking about what I wanted to do, it was fun that I was now allowed to play a little more flirty roles and a little more grown up. I wasn't so young and virginal with the braids down, the long skirts and stuff. They had me on the soap opera. And then finally I got to, I actually was auditioning for a pilot called Zoe Duncan, Jack and Jane that Michael Jacobs, the executive producer of Boy Meets World, was producing as well at the same time. It was during pilot season. And he saw me and he was really tough on me. And I write a lot about this, about how I thought he hated me, but actually he loved me. And that's how he showed like this tough love. Like, you have to be good on this audition. Like he would give me notes, like, cause he would, like, we had to have several auditions and then go to screen test and everything. So before the screen test and stuff, he was really tough on me. But I was proud that I like fulfilled like all of those directions, but I didn't end up getting the role. It went to Selma Blair. And they just wanted someone darker, just different. I was a little more lighter, kind of bubblier, I guess. But I got the call from Michael and Disney that they wanted to give me a holding deal for me to be on Boy Meets World the next season, for it to be Eric and Jack's roommate, because they had been thinking about adding a girl in for them to fight over and to have kind of more conflict between them in the apartment setup and the college thing. But they hadn't like casted, thrown out a casting call or anything. But then he was like, I saw you and you, that was it.
It's funny how people see you, right? And then they think about you in a certain way.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah.
But how did you start? How were you thinking about yourself and your sexuality during this period in your life?
You know what? It was interesting because now looking back on it, especially, I see how I was, it's hard to say sexualized by like the Disney machine, but it's like in those very subtle tones, like everything I did was sort of a sexual butt of a joke. Like I would have a food fight with the guys with my feet on their face and chest and everything. Or I would dance around in lingerie to tease them and to teach them lessons. And I had a poster, a nudie poster in the student union put up to like embarrass me because I took it from my boyfriend, which was kind of like revenge porn kind of thing. But we didn't actually think about it then. So there's always things like that happening. Like I write about in the book when I had to go to the offices to try on lingerie over and over again to make sure it was just the right lingerie for me. Now, I honestly don't think that it was totally like they're thinking, oh, I want to just sexualize her and do anything, because there wasn't like sexual assault and stuff or anything like that. But it was just that mindset about, oh, yeah, we can just use these girls for like jollies and stuff, and it's fine. They have to come up to and do the try on the lingerie and do all this stuff, and we can make little jokes in the show about you know, us being like sexual. And I was kind of like I was the more like, I guess, risque one, if that can be said on a Disney show. But I was the one that the guys all kind of gawked at, and I was like this sexual unicorn, I guess. And like Danielle on the show was just the more studious, virginal, like main character. And yeah, so all of us in Trina, we were all different. But I definitely had the majority of the sexual butt of the jokes. But I was at the same time, when I had to try on lingerie, I was very uncomfortable, because not that I was thinking, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I was thinking I should be doing this because I need to prove myself and I need to be sexy enough and I need them to like me and I don't want to lose my job, or I don't want them to think that I'm not a team player and all this stuff. But I was not comfortable with my body, and I was still like thinking about my sexuality. I was still repressing it and trying to, you know, fit into some mold to make everybody happy. So that's where I was. And I was still in this, you know, I wanted to make Disney happy and stuff. So that was, you know, just the starting point of me starting to think about things, but I was still repressing them all.
And at this point, where you were still pretty far away from thinking about the Maitland we see today.
Yeah. That was years and years. Yeah. And then like after Boy was, you know, taken off the air, and we left. I mean, then I had to think about things again, and I got White Chicks after that, and
Yeah.
I did some, pilots and stuff, but then the roles started drying up and I started being typecast and said, oh no, you can't play like a more sexy role if I wanted to. And this isn't porn. This is more like just a grown-up woman who's kind of badass and sexy and dramatic or whatever. They didn't want me to play those kind of things, or wouldn't even let me audition for them, because it was just, no, we know you on Boy Meets World. We know that that's your type. You can play those kind of roles. But even those kind of roles were drying up because it was, well, we saw you on Boy Meets World already. So it was a weird time. And it was very frustrating, but in the long run, it was great because it really forced me to look at myself and what I wanted to do. I mean, I got married during these years. I moved to New York. That's when I really took a breath away from Hollywood and was able to write. I started writing, doing erotic writing, and finding out like what I was liking, what I was missing in my life, and what I really, wanted to be as like, I wasn't even thinking a performer necessarily. I was thinking like I could write stuff that's really hot. And I was thinking about fantasies I'd want to have in my own life, but I was being secretive about it by writing it just on the page. So it was just between me and the page. But that was an amazing time. And it's funny, like once I got married, I actually felt freer to explore that side of myself. And people think that's wild, but it really was. I was able to have a safe net. And then I could kind of explore what I wanted to do, especially like in all my creative processes. But it wasn't until I came back to LA eventually, a couple years later. And then I went to school for 2 years at UCLA to screenwriting. And so I wrote all these scripts, and these they were always like these sexually provocative characters, but strong, badass women who had lost power in their life and they were trying to regain it again. It seemed to be the same storyline, except for different storylines, but the same theme for me. And I really needed to get that out. And I really planned on just writing scripts and maybe starring in one that I could produce, or just selling the scripts. I didn't know, but I was really focused on that. That's when the spinoff for Boy Meets World, Girl Meets World came around. And all of a sudden there was so much attention on the show and the people who were on the show. And it was weird because I had worked for many years to try to distance myself from that, because I had been typecast, and I was finally like finding things that I wanted to do, and like roles that I might want to play, or, films that I might want to be a part of. And then to be like, it was like an ice bath going straight back into the whole Boy Meets World universe. So that was, but it gave me the platform that I would never have had before to show my fans and people who would like me on social media and stuff, because that was really becoming very important back then. Instagram was just really launching. And I was able to gain the audience that I have now at like the start of it, right back then, when people were telling me, you cannot play sexy. You just have to be like, please Disney, and maybe you'll get an episode or two on Girl Meets World. But I really found that I said, you know what, I'm gonna kind of forge my own path. And since I had this audience building, I could do that.
So this was bubbling, literally, like, your sexuality, the writing, the stories, the erotica, it was all leading towards something that maybe you didn't realize was
No,
really
I
coming.
absolutely did not realize it. And this was like, for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Well, I did like, I liked doing on my social media and stuff like sexy cosplay. I was really into that. And I found I could have a career at that too, which was wild to me, because I would go to a Comic-Con, and I met a photographer who knew I was into like, cosplay and everything. And we did a May the 4th Be With You shoot.
Right.
That he had an authentic slave Leia costume, and that just set things off in emotion. I got so much press on that, and I would get so much press on all of my costumes and stuff, where I became known as like a cosplayer and somebody at Comic-Cons and stuff, and that was an offshoot. And I would love to do those sexy kind of shots. Now Disney did not like me doing anything sexy like that, even just sexy outfits at a Comic-Con, and they didn't like me getting so much attention for that. And I really, which was interesting, because they just didn't like that sexual attention for, for any of their cast members. But then I just found I wanted to do like sexy setups, and I wanted to do like, I was an exhibitionist. I did body paint. I liked that kind of stuff. It wasn't it was fun for me. And it was fun that the fans were responding and I was gaining more and more of a following until it eventually I didn't make money for like except for my cosplay stuff and appearances like that, but I didn't make money like on content or anything adult content for like sorry, this is what is it back there? For like I didn't make content for like 4 years or something.
Wow,
Like
it's a
it
long
was,
time.
so I put a lot into it before I ever made money, real money from it. I was just enjoying it and I was enjoying building the fan base and everything. And so, but eventually like the like Snapchat and Instagram and all those, they get very upset with like sexy photos and everything.
Right.
Even though I wasn't really showing anything, it was just the idea. They just would take people down. And so my fans were like, why don't you sell content? I don't know why this is going off so much.
It's okay. It's all good. Yeah.
Okay. All my fans, they were like, why don't you sell content? Because I was like wanting to show like nudity or do Playboy-esque type
Yeah.
stuff. And I really had an interest in that. And I definitely wanted to do like more sexy cosplay and stuff than I could do on regular social media. I could do a little bit more of that on Snapchat until they really cracked down. And that was really when my fans in like, it was like 2018. So it was like 5 years ago that I said, okay, maybe I'll start. I didn't think anybody would really be interested in that. And I kind of started a Patreon page one night and I said, I'll see. I didn't announce it, but then the next morning there was like 20 subscribers. And I was like, I did announce it. And then by the end of the week, I had thousands. And it was
Wow.
like I was the #1 adult creator. And all of a sudden I had this business and this brand and I had this money to spend on it. And it was wild. It was really overnight with that. And then it was like I was discovering myself. And I used the whole platform to really discover my own sexuality and what I wanted to do performance wise. And I would start off, of course, by doing the Playboy-esque type stuff. And I do all the cosplay, I did solo stuff. And I really enjoyed that. And I found I was good at it. And I fans responded. And then I started doing, well, let's do some girl stuff. Let's have some
Yeah.
fun slumber parties and like do, sexual stuff there. And that was not an issue. I'd had sexual relationships with women in the past, and I loved that. And at the time, my husband, he was fine with that. So it was like, we did all that and that became popular. And then I started thinking I have these fantasies I want to play out with men that I just wanted to do. And my husband and I had a great talk, and he actually came to me and I said, I see that you want to do all this stuff performance wise. And I think, we should explore this. And we really found though, that in the confines, like of getting a professional, like if I want to play out a scenario, like I did with my Patreon in the beginning, having a professional where they know they come in, there's no emotional attachment or anything. You do your thing,
Right.
have your fun, and they leave. And it's like, it's a very safe space. And I feel like porn is like that a lot that people don't realize that it is a very, very safe environment to let yourself loose. And when I was lucky enough to know people who knew two of the longest term porn stars who had been in the business like plus 10 years. And so I did content with them. And again, before I did professional porn and before I became the contract face of deeper.com, I was doing content for like a year and a half. And, but then I found I wanted to do something higher scale and more professional. And that's when Vixen Media Group called and wanted me to do a scene for Blacked. And I was like, I don't know, am I going to do the real porn? Like, is this going
The
to
real porn.
happen? But I did. And it was such a great experience. I had a great co-star and it was like just like a regular movie set. Like it wasn't anything different. And we had wardrobe and makeup and sets and like it was. And I know the Vixen sets are very high scale and they do put a lot of money and crew and all that into it. But I think that's true with anything in Hollywood too. You have the higher end like Warner Brothers or whatever, or
Sure.
Disney. And then you have like super low budget independent films. So I definitely landed with the Warner Brothers of porn. But it was great. And my scene though, I announced the scene on my social media, but it wasn't like a press announcement that I was going to porn, but my scene like killed it. It like the site like shut down for a half hour. It was like, it was
Wow.
just it was just a viral moment where people were just it was insane. Well, on that, and that's really the how I got to deeper was on that day that my scene came out and was like blowing up and it was beating all records. Caden Cross, who is a huge performer in her own right for many years, and then who had just won Director of the Year and was launching her brand deeper.com, which is the more, you would think of it as like the more creative story brand, like a longer feature films and more like she was really doing things that other people hadn't done. Like she was making full concept written features with, regular studio lighting and film and like everything and direction. And so she lost her co-lead actress for that project that she was just going to launch for the first huge project for her brand for the company. And it was called Drive. And she lost the actress due to problems. I write a little bit about that, but then she thought she was going to have to shelve it because she didn't have enough time and to find somebody who could do the lines and do all of the extensive acting pieces of it. And so she went to Vixen that Monday morning, so 2 days after, and said, I don't think I can do this project. I don't think I can do this project. I can't even turn this off. Hold on a second. I know what it is.
No, it's all these things, right?
There, we're done.
Coming
Okay.
together.
I was like confused. I turned the other off.
Yeah.
But she went to Vixen on that Monday and said, I can't do this project. We don't have time. I can't find an actress. And they're like, talk to Maitland. She has a big draw and she's she's an actress, a real actress. And so I met with her and we immediately hit it off and we began filming like a week later on this project. And then that's the one that I announced to the press. And that went crazy. That was the monster viral moment. It was Google #1 all day. I beat Bernie Sanders' heart attack. I was like, Rachel's doing full-on porn. It was everywhere. It was all over the world.
Do you think it helped you being a more traditional actress going into porn? I mean,
oh yeah.
How did that help you in a sense? I'm not sure people think about that aspect.
Oh yeah. And it's like, you know how to work the camera, about production and like how to, bring out the scene. It's not just like, it's not like the stuff we do is not like the stuff that you see on Pornhub. It's just like this gonzo camera, like where they're just filming sex. We actually have a whole script and direction and everything. So it helped me immensely as an actress. And I feel like I can do a lot of things that, there are a lot of girls that can't do because they aren't trained as an actress. And I feel grateful that I landed with someone and with a brand that had the same vision as me, because I had such a vision for a while when I was doing my content, and I was really thinking, I want to have something really professionally done, and I wanted to have great acting and directing and writing and hot sex, all of it. And this was really the dream place to be. So I think being an actress, you just know how to perform to the camera, because I think sometimes girls or guys, whoever comes into the industry of porn, and maybe they like sex, but they don't know how to play to the camera right away. So it takes them a while to, it was surprising though that I was so comfortable with it. And I just let myself loose immediately. Like the first time I did a sex scene for my content with one of the porn star guys that I knew, he knew it was my first time on doing it on camera, and we did it. And at the end, I was like, just let myself go. And I asked him later, what did you remember about that first time? And he said, you weren't nervous. I couldn't believe you weren't nervous. And I just went for it. And I felt like I was liberating, and it was freeing to me to be able to do this and to perform like this. So I do think that probably a lot of Hollywood actors and stuff wouldn't feel comfortable performing like that, because sexual performance is a very specific thing. It's like it being a dancer or having a specific sport or something that you're good at. Like not everybody can do it. And I don't think porn actors get enough credit for being able to, do a good porn scene where people are engaged and they get turned on, and it's a quality thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It makes me think of how much discussion goes into before the scene with the co-star or the production team, and how much information are you given, and or is it a lot of improvisation mixed with information ahead of time?
We have to talk about everything a lot ahead of time. Like there has to be a whole conversation about consent and what your no's are and your yeses and what you want, like where the scene is going to lead. Usually we know we have to have the scene lead in a certain way because you're going to do like photos ahead of time and like choose positions that you're going to do. So you know you'll pretty much land in all of those positions, and you definitely have to give your consent on everything. So we talk about it a lot. In my scenario, I mean, I get scripts ahead of time, so I know exactly what's going on and like what's going to happen. And but there is a lot more discussion than people think. People think you just go on and have sex, but it's not like that. It's, you really have to like plan it. Even for a more gonzo kind of scene, or, you know, that's not fully scripted and everything, you're still going to have those discussions about what you want to do. And like, you know, and if somebody breaks a no, it's like taboo. You just, like, somebody does something that you said no to, that's like the worst, and that can really like blacklist you from the industry. It's, yeah, so there's a lot of things ahead of time. You have to sign paperwork every time you do it. You have to show your IDs. You have to get STD testing every 2 weeks. So, and then when COVID came, we had COVID testing every day. So
I would imagine so. Yeah.
yeah.
How do you think about like the work that you do and how people perceive the act of sex, how they feel? Like, is it how real it feels maybe watching a porn versus just everyday sex people have in real
Well,
life?
you know, people are always like, oh, is it like real sex in the scene? Yes, you are enjoying the sex, you were having real sex, you were having orgasms and things like that. But you have to play it to the camera. That always has to be in your mind. So you're always, you know, you have to think about that and be aware of that. But I would say it's much more like acrobatic and athletic, which you have to be in really good shape to do this. I have to say,
I don't think people think about that,
a long
Maitland.
time. Yeah, but I mean, not just like, you have to be like physically like do it, because it does take a lot out of you. And they always say, you know, your sex muscles get used. Those aren't the muscles you're thinking about. It's like your neck turning around, your hip, your like back. Those are your sex muscles. Because the worst is I have to like a lot of times pose for pictures from behind. And I'm like this. It's like, oh, my neck is just like, I'm holding the position to have to put my face to the camera. That's hard. But I think regular people, like, it's kind of like why I wanted to go into porn and do it. I couldn't do all of these crazy things, you know, in my bedroom with my husband. I mean, we're not going to have like sets and or swings or like good equipment and like people and gangbangs and like all this, you know, stuff. But it's really cool because like I've done 2 DPs, double penetration, but you would never, I mean, I am hard pressed to find guys in life who would want to do that, like just because they don't want to be together like that. Like it's hard. It's true. I wish if I was more sexually free when I was younger, I wish they would have, but to try that, but it's very hard to find that.
Well, why is that? They're like, is there a stigma behind that? 2 guys that maybe
I think
they're
a
not.
lot of guys, a lot of straight guys are like, oh, it'll make me like I'm gay or something. It's really ridiculous, but there is that thought process. Yeah, and maybe they don't want to be in the same room I don't know, like to touch each other, whatever. But it is hard. And I've heard other girls talk about it, but it's cool. In porn, you have professionals who do this, and you can just explore like that. And it's a cool, safe way to do it.
What's been your favorite experience in porn? Like, what's been your favorite experience that you've done that you were like, wow, this is like so amazing that I did get to do this scene?
Oh, there's been so many. Like I just being able to do like firsts and stuff when I just along the way, I get to like it's weird because porn has actually given me my dramatic like acting career back. I wouldn't have been able to act so much and have such an outlet to be in dramatic pieces, and now I'm writing and directing stuff, and I feel like it's given me such power. I would have never been able to write a book, which I had always wanted to do, and I did that. So that's been an amazing thing. Now, as far as like sex acts and stuff, I always found like it's just really cool. Like just different ones that you do at your first, like your first gangbang. Like I had these guys around me, which is a lot of hard work because you're always having to think of a new penis. Like, where is it? Where is it? It's not as free. It's not as like, wow, freeing, because you're thinking about the camera. It's not like you're doing it in real life. You're like, because you have to there's so many penises coming at you. It's
There's
just,
just so many penises
and
coming
you're kind of
at
like, who is it attached to? I don't like,
you. Oh
and you
my
have to
God.
keep it, and you're the focus of it. I think orgies are way easier. Like I did a big orgy with like, oh my God, it was, well, it was like 13 people or something. And it's much easier because everybody has their, their,
Yeah.
you don't have to be the focus of the whole thing, but I definitely enjoyed the gangbang. And I was very proud of myself at how good at anal I am with very
Oh,
large dicks. So
really?
yes, I found I am very like naturally good at it. And of course I had done it in my personal life, but not with the,
Not with
you know,
the biggest cock
monster
out there,
cock.
right? I mean, monster cocks.
I
Yeah.
know. And I recently just did a 4-person anal train. Like it was amazing.
Wow.
I know. And I feel like I was so nervous at a time about like cleaning out and like being all, I thought it was going to be a big process. And I remember Manuel Ferrero was my first anal on a project. He was very sweet. He was like, we're gonna go slow. We're gonna like, he's a monster dick,
Yeah.
but we're gonna go slow and anything if you want to stop. But I was so proud of myself. He went all the way in and we did not stop the scene. He
Wow.
was like, I couldn't believe it. Like,
I can't believe it.
I was so proud of myself. I'm like, what on earth? I didn't have to stop once.
Wow. I mean, I was thinking,
Yeah,
do
it was
you prep
great.
for that? Like, or is there any preparation for
Yes,
it?
there's a lot of prep, but I found you can over prep too.
Oh,
I find I wrote in the book I have a whole chapter on like how it's a little anal chapter, but definitely you have to do an enema. Like I usually like the night before, get it going, get it out. A lot of girls don't eat for like 14 hours or something. Like they don't eat right beforehand because they don't want it to come out or anything to come out. And I was really nervous about that, but Kaden, my director and friend and everything, she said beforehand, you know what, do not worry, eat something right before the scene. She goes, because a banana is not going to just fall out your ass. It's not going to process and go right through you. Like but I feel like I found the best way. I actually can eat. As long as it's not like huge amounts, but I don't have that problem. I clean out very easily. I just have to do one enema. Some girls do a lot, but that can be dangerous because there's girls that do enemas right beforehand. And I've heard some horror stories about how that gets stuff really moving and
oh no.
explosive
No.
diarrhea.
Are
That it
you?
happens a lot.
No.
Yeah. So I just clean out with water ahead of time. Warm water. Just get it nice. Get the canal nice, but you don't need to go up into your,
Wow, that's to
colon
ruin the
right
scene.
before.
That's
I
definitely
know
gonna
I've
ruin
been
the
on set
scene.
with like one that happened,
No.
and yeah. So, so just know, don't over enema.
Don't, how dare you over enema? Don't you do
Yeah.
that? Is there like a point you won't go to? Like, is there certain things you're like, I draw the line?
Well, I don't do any like super BDSM things or
Mm.
anything. So I'm just not in that world. Like my BDSM stuff would involve like crops and floggers and things
Sure.
like that and handcuffs maybe and stuff. So I like all that stuff, but there's some extreme stuff that I wouldn't do. And I also wouldn't do like I know for OnlyFans and stuff, I get tons of custom requests. I turn that off.
The OnlyFans thing's interesting because
And
that wasn't around in the beginning when you were doing
no,
it.
that's why I was on
Right?
Patreon. It was not as big like when I went on. And Patreon it wasn't an adult thing. It's still not
Yeah.
an adult thing. They've gotten stricter though. They used to have more adult content where you could have nudes on your page and stuff, and it was more like nude, like adult art and stuff. But yeah, OnlyFans really started just taking off, and it took off for me like as soon as I got on professional porn and on Deeper. You know, it went crazy. And then during the pandemic, it just skyrocketed. And so, but speaking that like things I won't do if I get a request on like OnlyFans or anything for custom videos, I won't do anything like humiliating to someone. I do small penis humiliation. Yes, that's fun. And they
Small
like that.
penis
And certain people like
humiliation.
that. So I'll do
Why do
that kind of
people
stuff.
like that?
But I
Seriously.
won't like yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. And
Why
it's
though?
kind of fun because I can just insult them. And we have fun with it. But but I won't like insult their race or
Sure.
their sexual identity like that, unless it's small penis humiliation.
Why do people want you to insult their small penis?
I don't,
Honestly.
it's real and then it's also like a lot of people that watch like the big dicks and stuff, they like
Yeah.
to it's a cuck thing, like kind of
Yeah.
like they like to be humiliated and they get off by that. But I mean, I'm not gonna shame anybody for that.
Right.
And I enjoy them. So if anybody wants a small dick humiliation video, I'm very good at them because I also play a very on usually on like deeper in my projects. I'm much like a devious kind of
Yeah.
mistress vixen where I get this kind of they like me to talk like that. So
Oh, okay. You put on a
yes,
different
it's more
voice
of
type
a
of thing.
controlling dominant kind of
Yeah.
domination thing.
Now, what is the okay? So people requesting stuff. What's the number one request? I mean, it's not the small dick thing, is it? I
No,
mean,
no. That's a specific thing that, but I
yeah.
do get a lot of them. But I think the most request is just like to masturbate with a toy and say their
Yeah.
name and be more like it's kind of like they're involved in the whole thing. I got a lot during the pandemic, a lot of date kind of things where they'd want to pretend like I was on a date with them and taking them back to a hotel room because they weren't having the connection. None of us
Right.
were going out and meeting people. So that was kind of fun. And but I get a lot of domination ones too, like as the mistress to tell them like a lot of jerk off instructions. That's a big deal. Like to tell you what you need to do and control like their orgasm, which is cool too. I mean, I like all these dom things.
Yeah. It seems like this is a theme here, Maitland. Going
Yeah,
on.
I have it a lot. It's funny because I started out as the girl next door kind of
Yeah.
thing on Boy Meets World, but now I'm like this mistress domination woman.
Dominatrix.
And I'm having fun with it. And then, look, Hollywood didn't think I could play it. Now I'm making
Of course.
tons of money on it.
Right. I mean, you are literally like exploding. So amazing. So was the liberation part, like liberating from Hollywood, like just being able to like be yourself and
Yes,
explore these things?
yes. Like the Hollywood box that they put me in, I was finally able to break free and break out of that. And that's the thing that really, liberated me from Hollywood, especially the old Hollywood me. I mean, I still I'm not like opposed to mainstream or opposed to Hollywood like that. But I really think in the old day, like the old days when I was on that kind of box that they really put me and a lot of young starlets in. So yeah, that really I'm able to be myself. And I think that's really the liberation because porn recognized that in me and was let me be me and do all these things. Like I said, I get to act, I get to direct, I get to write, I get to do all the sexual acts I wanted to do. I play the roles I want to play. And it's been such a liberating thing.
You know what's interesting? I've talked to a lot of people like in your space or doing different things, and
Mm-hmm.
they always tell me like you would never guess the person or the people that would be doing these requests or going to see someone in this. Have you experienced that as well?
Yeah, I think it's all types. I really believe that everybody watches porn pretty 90% or whatever, but there's a lot of people that don't want to admit it in the public, but then they are secretly they are fans and they want to do customs and they want to do all this stuff. I've had some really sweet experiences too. Like there was one guy who was dying of cancer and he just enjoyed doing customs and doing talking and all that time together at the end. And then finally he just said, thank you so much for like giving me so much enjoyment in this. And he passed away, I presume, because he was really ill. But so that was a special thing. And like so I have cool connections with my fans and it's amazing like the people that you get to know and everything. But yeah, you're right. There's people that you would never expect, like totally watch like porn all the time and they're really invested in it. I
Right.
get couples coming to me telling me that I've saved their marriage and deeper scenes and stuff. I've saved their
Wow.
marriage. I had a great couple tell me at one of my book signings that their marriage was strengthened so much because he liked porn, I guess, and she was like, oh, I don't, she didn't like that what she thought was on Pornhub or whatever. And he's like, well, watch this stuff. This is really smart. Watch Maitland stuff and this deeper stuff. And she did. And they said they love it and they experience it together. She can feel like she watches the storyline and is invested in that. And then the hot sex happens. So she can, it's a smarter kind of porn.
A smarter type of
It's
porn.
smarter because you have to think
Yeah.
and follow the storylines.
It's like fast forward. No, don't fast forward. It is amazing. I always hear these stories about how it's like it's the doctor, it's the judge, it's the
I
lawyer.
know.
I'm telling you, it's your school teacher, it's like
Yes.
all these people
Yes.
that you
And the
think
people
are
that are against
virtuous.
Yeah, the people who are against porn the most, like these groups, they have the most twisted, kinky porn, like twisted, dark stuff. Like I wouldn't do that kind of stuff. Like, needles in them and like,
Wow, needles.
no, I think they're into really like really weird stuff sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, and they always are like, you hate porn, but I really think it's a way to control women too. They don't want women to make money at porn, but they want porn to always exist for them. But there's a certain group that doesn't want women to make profit or success off their sexuality. They want their bodies for them, or for just like they just want to treat them as demeaned sexual beings, which is a whole subsect.
Wow. Jeez, man.
Yeah.
The most reputable people have the craziest shit that they're
Yes.
into. Like,
yeah, because they will hide it. And then it's also because it's such like it shouldn't be taboo. It should be normalized in society. So it wouldn't be like, people use their sexual repression to go into all these crazy things.
yeah. Well, how do you feel about like when someone potentially has like an addiction to porn, or they just like they can't do anything else? Like they're just into that type of thing, or like what's your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, that's a problem with whatever you do. I mean, Terry Crews said that he has that problem, but then he wants to shut down all of porn and demean all of porn actresses
Really?
and everything. Yes,
I
because
didn't
he
hear
thinks
this.
it is an addiction and it ruins marriages. But I mean, that's his view. And like, if anybody has a problem with anything, whether it be alcohol or food or whatever, it's like that's your issue. And yes, you should deal with that, and that's not good. Any overconsumption of anything that's hurting
Yeah.
you and taking your time away and doing that should be dealt with, but it's not something that you should, tell everyone that they can't have it, even though they are
Right.
fine with it and they enjoy it and they use it and
Well, it is like alcohol in the sense that like there are people who do have definite problems with alcohol, and then there's plenty of people who don't have an issue and they
yeah,
can socially drink and they're not tied to it. But then
yeah,
you have this whole section of people who are like, no booze ever,
I know,
sober life. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
that worked for you, but maybe
yeah,
there's
but it
people
doesn't
who
work.
don't have that issue and
Right,
then they're
right,
fine. It's like almost
right,
like that can't exist outside of
yeah,
this spectrum.
yes. I think a lot of like the people who say they're addicted to porn also have other addictions. Like they just use something where they, focus on it to try to, I don't
Yeah.
know, get away from their problems in society or whatever, to
Yeah.
forget, to fantasize and get out of it, their headspace and stuff. But yeah, I think you're right about that. It's like if it's your problem, please get help for it. But
Yeah.
also porn isn't a physical addiction in the way that it is a physical thing, but like
Right.
alcohol or drugs would actually, you could, have withdrawal from it. It's
Yeah.
not something like if you stop watching porn, you're going to physically have withdrawal. It's more like
Yeah.
you need psychological help, not like a medical intervention.
It also feels like there is a sexual intervention happening in our collective consciousness. Like I've talked to so many people who would never normally do these things, podcasts, sex workers and stuff. And they're like rallying, like, hey, no, 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 this is okay to talk about this because there's been a large sexual repression in America's history.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
we're coming out of that on some level, I feel, at least in my experience with other people talking about it.
Yeah. No, I think especially with younger people and stuff who've been on the internet and porn has been a part of their, younger life, 20s, 30s, they're like they've had it always. So I think that's promising. And I think it's a weird thing in society though. I was thinking like it's either the very like right-wing fundamentalist kind of sect that just
Mhm.
hates porn, but there's also a very left-wing like feminist sect that thinks that porn is like evil and they should women should not use sexuality in any way. So it's like that's the only issue that they both agree on. And although I hope that they're smaller groups but very vocal,
Yeah.
I think that for the most part, I think society is ready for it and they do watch porn. And it's these groups that are always trying to oppress it and everything. But I think the whole thing is it should like everybody fights against each other. And like I think it needs to be normalized. It doesn't need to be like you have to watch it or anything, but people need to hear about it and know that people in porn aren't crazy, all of them, and that people didn't have to come into porn just because they were abused and
Yeah.
nobody is being in legitimate porn. I want to say nobody is being trafficked. legitimate porn. I
Yeah.
don't mean like some video you find on Pornhub or some weird website of something. I mean, like, we have to make sure we have our IDs and our consent and our paperwork and our testing and everything. So that's always a conversation that's these groups use. It's like trafficking in porn. It's the same thing. And it couldn't be further from the truth. We would love to work with people to stop trafficking and have legitimate sex work.
Yeah. And I actually think people who are really extreme on either side of these things, they're consuming it too. They're just lying about it.
They're lying about it. And they're the ones with the worst.
They're the ones that are the nasty motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You know, there just is. You always see that with people when they're so worked up about something. I feel like they have guilt about the thing they're worked up about.
Yes.
It. Like they're doing it. They just don't want you to know. It's like if somebody's like so worked up about someone being gay or lesbian, they're like, okay, what's the problem here? Like,
yeah. I actually knew a guy in school who was always so homophobic, and it was like weird. Then I find out later he's gay. Right. He came out as gay. And of course, it's like always, well, you should have known that back in high school. But because he was like so weird that he would always say, oh, that's gay or something. He'd always make jokes. But then it's like, wait a minute, he's gay. That's why it happened, because he was trying to repress it.
Yeah. It's almost like you hate yourself, so you're going to hate someone else for that. Instead, you know, it's better that the world is so more accepting and we're moving towards a better place, because I want people to be themselves.
Right.
I really want that. Who wants to live a life where you're not doing, you have to hide who you are? No one wants that.
Right. Right. That's exactly true. And that's why porn really did liberate me, because I don't have to like hide anymore.
Well said. Well, listen, this is awesome. I mean, what a great story. Obviously, you're doing amazingly well. And please let everyone know how they can get more of Maitland in their life.
Oh, well, on social media and everything, it's Maitland Ward, MaitlandWard. So yeah, my OnlyFans and everything, on Twitter, on Instagram. And also I started a TikTok. It's Maitland Talks, TOKS. But you know, I'm just on the start of that. So, but you can find me there too.
Awesome. Maitland, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. This was a really good conversation. I enjoyed speaking
thank
with
you. Yes, wonderful conversation. Thank you.
All right,
so
Maitland
much.
Ward, everyone. Thank you so much.